The story of Austrian money begins not in a treasury or a bank, but with a tale of adventure, capture, and a vast treasure. It starts with a famous English king, Richard the Lionheart. In the late 12th century, King Richard was returning from the Crusades. He had traveled far from home, fighting in distant lands. His journey back was dangerous. To avoid his enemies, he disguised himself as a simple pilgrim. But his disguise did not work for long. Near the city of Vienna, he was discovered and captured. Duke Leopold V of Austria had taken one of the most powerful rulers in Europe as his prisoner. This single act would change Austria's destiny and give birth to its very first coins in a truly spectacular fashion. Holding a king captive was a bold move, and it came with a very high price. To secure Richard's freedom, England had to pay an enormous ransom. It was a staggering amount of silver, weighing many tons. This was more wealth than most kingdoms could imagine at the time. The silver was carefully transported across Europe to Austria. When it finally arrived, Duke Leopold had a decision to make. What should he do with this incredible fortune? He could have built castles or funded armies. Instead, he chose to do something that would have a much longer-lasting impact. He decided to turn this mountain of English silver into Austrian coins, creating a currency for his people. This was a pivotal moment. Before this, Austria did not have its own organized system of money. People used various coins from different places, which made trade complicated and messy. Duke Leopold's decision to use the ransom silver was revolutionary. He established a new mint in Vienna, a special workshop dedicated to making these new coins. The first Austrian coins, known as the Vienna pfennig, were struck from this very silver. They were small, simple pieces of metal, but they represented something immense. They were a symbol of Austrian power, independence, and the beginning of a national identity, all made possible by a captured king. So, when you think about the history of money, it is often a story of economics and governments. But in Austria, it starts like a legend. The silver that once belonged to an English king became the foundation of a nation's wealth. These early coins were more than just currency. They were physical reminders of a dramatic event that put Austria on the map. They showed that Duke Leopold was a clever and ambitious ruler. He used his prisoner not just for political gain, but to create a tool that would unify his lands, boost his economy, and lay the groundwork for centuries of Austrian minting tradition that continues to this very day. Just as the story of Austrian coins began with a dramatic event, their development in the Middle Ages was shaped by the arrival of a powerful family, the Habsburgs. This dynasty would rule Austria for more than 600 years, and their influence was felt in every aspect of life, including the money people carried in their pockets. When the Habsburgs took control in the 13th century, they understood that controlling the currency was a way to control their territory. They continued to operate the Vienna Mint, but they brought new ideas and a sense of order to the process. They saw coins not just as tools for trade, but as symbols of their authority and their growing power across Central Europe. Under Habsburg rule, the minting of coins became more organized and sophisticated. The early Vienna pfennigs were simple, but as the centuries passed, the designs began to change. The coins started to feature more complex symbols, such as the crests and emblems of the ruling dukes. This was a form of branding. When a person held a coin, they were holding a small piece of propaganda that reminded them who was in charge. The Habsburgs were masters of this. They wanted their coins to be recognized and trusted not only within Austria but also in neighboring lands, which helped to make Vienna an important center of commerce and finance during the medieval period. The coins themselves also evolved. While silver remained the most important metal, different sizes and values of coins were introduced. This made daily life easier for ordinary people. You could now have smaller coins for buying bread, and larger ones for more significant purchases. This system, with its different denominations, was a sign of a more complex and stable economy. The Habsburgs knew that a reliable currency encouraged trade and made it easier to collect taxes. Their careful management of the mints helped their domains to prosper, and the quality of their coins became known throughout the region. It was a slow but steady process of building a monetary system. This period laid the essential groundwork for Austria's future as a major European power. The Habsburgs' focus on creating a consistent and trustworthy currency was a key part of their strategy for consolidating power. They turned the minting of coins from a simple craft into a state-controlled industry. The coins from this era tell a story of a dynasty on the rise. Each new design, each improvement in quality, was a step towards the great Austrian Empire that was to come. The medieval coins of Austria are a testament to the Habsburgs' long-term vision, where money was both a practical tool and a powerful symbol of their enduring legacy. As the Middle Ages gave way to the Renaissance, a new and impressive coin appeared that would make Austria famous across the world. The Guldengroschen, which soon became known as the thaler. This was not a small, everyday coin. It was a large, heavy piece of high-quality silver, first minted in Hall in Tyrol around the year 1486. The discovery of rich new silver mines in places like Tyrol gave Austrian rulers the raw material they needed to create this spectacular new currency. The thaler was beautiful, reliable, and substantial. It was a coin that felt important in your hand, and it quickly became a symbol of wealth and prestige. The thaler was a game-changer in European finance. Its consistent weight and high silver content meant that merchants everywhere trusted it. For the first time, there was a large silver coin that could be used for major international transactions. Before the thaler, traders often had to deal with a confusing mix of gold and silver coins from many different kingdoms, each with its own value. The Austrian thaler simplified everything. It became a standard, a benchmark against which other currencies were measured. Its name, thaler, is even the origin of the word dollar, showing just how influential this Austrian innovation was on a global scale. Alongside the silver thaler, another important coin rose to prominence, the gold ducat. Ducats were originally from Venice, but Austria began minting its own versions, which became highly sought after. These gold coins were used for the most important international payments and for storing large amounts of wealth. Having both a trusted silver coin like the thaler and a prestigious gold coin like the ducat put Austria at the very heart of European commerce. The Habsburg rulers, now Holy Roman Emperors, used this monetary power to fund their vast empire, their armies, and their political ambitions. Austrian money was now a tool of international diplomacy. The production of these coins also showed off Austria's incredible craftsmanship. The designs on the thalers and ducats were becoming more and more artistic. They featured detailed portraits of the emperors, intricate coats of arms, and other symbols of imperial power. These were not just pieces of money. They were miniature works of art that projected an image of a sophisticated and powerful empire. The thaler in particular became the calling card of the Habsburgs. It traveled along trade routes to Africa, the Middle East, and even the Americas, carrying the image of the Austrian emperor far and wide and cementing Austria's reputation as a leader in coinage. In the 18th century, Austria was a vast and powerful empire, and its coins reflected this grandeur. This was the era of Empress Maria Theresa, one of the most famous and influential rulers in Habsburg history. She was a great reformer, and her long reign left a lasting mark on Austria, including its money. The mints in Vienna, Hall, and other parts of the empire became highly efficient, producing millions of coins with incredible skill. During this time, one coin in particular achieved a level of fame that no other Austrian coin had before or since, the Maria Theresa Thaler, first minted in 1741. The Maria Theresa Thaler was a large, beautiful silver coin, featuring a striking portrait of the Empress. What made this coin so special was its incredible consistency. Every thaler minted after 1780, the year of her death, carried that same date. It also had the same weight and the same high silver content. This meant that no matter where you were in the world, a Maria Theresa Thaler was always a Maria Theresa Thaler. It was a brand that people trusted completely. This reliability made it one of the most important trade coins in history, especially in Africa and the Middle East, where it was used as the primary currency for almost 200 years. Even after the Austrian Empire stopped using the thaler at home, The Vienna Mint continued to produce it for export because the demand was so high. It was used to buy coffee in Yemen, spices in Ethiopia, and goods along the trade routes of the Sahara. People preferred it over any other coin, including their own local currencies. They trusted the image of the strong empress and the quality of the silver. The story of the Maria Theresa Thaler shows the immense power of a trusted currency. It became more than just Austrian money. It became a global currency, a testament to the quality and tradition of the Austrian mint. The minting of this famous coin demonstrates Austria's role as a global leader in coinage during the imperial age. The technical skill required to produce such a consistent and high-quality coin over so many decades was remarkable. The portrait of Maria Theresa became one of the most recognized images on any coin in the world. Her thaler is a unique piece of history, a coin that transcended borders and time. It represents the peak of Austria's imperial power and its long-standing reputation for producing money that was not only beautiful, but also universally respected and trusted by millions of people across continents. The 19th century was, honestly, a time of great upheaval and modernization across Europe. And, well, the Austrian Empire was no exception. These changes were reflected in the country's currency. The old system, based on thalers and ducats, was beginning to feel outdated in an era of industrialization and new economic ideas. In 1857, Austria-Hungary made a major change by introducing a new currency called the florin, or gulden. This was part of a move towards decimalization, a system where the main currency unit is divided into 100 smaller parts. The florin was divided into 100 kreuzer, which made calculations much simpler for businesses and ordinary people. This currency reform was a significant step. It was an attempt to create a more modern and efficient monetary system for a sprawling, multi-ethnic empire. The new florin coins featured the portrait of Emperor Franz Joseph I, who would have a very long reign. The designs were elegant and formal, reflecting the imperial dignity of the era. However, the empire's finances were often under strain due to wars and political tensions. This led to debates about whether the currency should be backed by silver or gold. For much of this period, Austria used a silver standard, but the global trend was moving towards the stability of the gold standard. Eventually, Austria decided to make another major change. In 1892, the empire officially adopted the gold standard and introduced yet another new currency, the krone. One gold krone was worth half a florin. The transition was a massive undertaking, requiring the minting of millions of new gold, silver, and base metal coins. The new krone coins were symbols of a forward-looking empire, one that wanted to be seen as modern and financially sound. The designs continued to feature the portrait of the aging emperor Franz Joseph I, linking the new money to the long tradition of Habsburg rule. This period of currency changes, from the florin to the krone, tells a story of an old empire trying to adapt to a rapidly changing world. Each reform was an effort to stabilize the economy and keep pace with other major powers like Britain and Germany. The coins from this era are, in a way, historical documents. They show the shift from old monetary systems to modern decimal ones. They also mark the final decades of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The stable, gold-backed krone was meant to be the currency of a strong and prosperous future. But history, as we know, had other plans. The outbreak of World War I would soon bring this era to a dramatic and calamitous end. The start of World War I in 1914 marked the beginning of the end for the Austro-Hungarian Empire and its currency, the krone. To pay for the immense costs of the war, the government abandoned the gold standard and began printing vast amounts of paper money that was not backed by precious metal. This led to hyperinflation. The value of the krone plummeted. Prices for everyday goods like food and fuel skyrocketed, and people's savings became worthless almost overnight. By the end of the war in 1918, the once proud empire had collapsed, and its currency was in ruins. The new, much smaller Republic of Austria was left to deal with a catastrophic economic crisis. In the years immediately following the war, the situation only grew worse. The inflation was out of control. People had to carry wheelbarrows full of banknotes just to buy a loaf of bread. The coins, made of cheap metals like iron and zinc, were practically worthless. The nation's economy was on the brink of total collapse. It was clear that the krone could not be saved. Austria needed a fresh start, a new currency that could restore faith and stability. In 1925, the government took a bold step and introduced the shilling. This was more than just a new currency. It was a symbol of a new beginning for the troubled republic. The introduction of the shilling was a crucial moment of national renewal. The exchange rate was set at 10,000 old kronen to one new shilling, a move that wiped out the effects of hyperinflation at a stroke. For the first time in years, Austrians had a currency they could trust. The new shilling coins were made of silver and good quality bronze, a deliberate choice to show that this money was solid and valuable. The designs on the coins also broke with the imperial past. Instead of emperors, they featured symbols of the new republic, such as the national eagle, and images representing Austria's agriculture and industry. The first shilling became a source of national pride. It represented stability, hard work, and the hope for a better future after years of chaos and suffering. People called it the Alpine dollar because it was so stable, comparing it to the strong US currency. Having a reliable currency helped to rebuild the Austrian economy and restore a sense of normalcy to everyday life. The shilling was proof that the small republic could stand on its own feet. It was a powerful symbol of Austria's resilience, its ability to overcome disaster and forge a new identity in the turbulent years between the two world wars. The stability that the shilling had brought to Austria was tragically short-lived. In March 1938, a dark shadow fell over the nation. Nazi Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, annexed Austria in an event known as the Anschluss. Austria ceased to exist as an independent country. It became a province of the German Reich. This political and cultural catastrophe also meant the end of Austria's currency. The shilling, which had been a powerful symbol of Austrian independence and resilience, was abolished almost immediately. It was a swift and brutal erasure of a key part of the nation's identity. With the Anschluss, the German Reichsmark became the official currency. Austrians were forced to exchange their beloved shillings for German money. The exchange rate was set to favor Germany, further cementing its economic control over the newly absorbed territory. The Austrian Mint in Vienna, which had a proud history stretching back for centuries, was taken over. It was no longer producing coins that celebrated Austrian culture or identity. Instead, it was put to work minting coins for the Nazi regime, bearing the swastika and the German eagle. For 7 long years, no Austrian coins were made. The disappearance of the shilling was a profound loss for the Austrian people. It was a daily, tangible reminder that their country was gone. The money in their hands was foreign, a symbol of occupation and the loss of their freedom. The beautiful coin designs that had depicted Austria's alpine landscapes, its historic buildings, and its national symbols were replaced by the stark, militaristic imagery of the Third Reich. The rich tradition of Austrian coinage, which had been built over centuries of craftsmanship and artistry, came to a complete and sudden halt. It was a silent but powerful aspect of the cultural suppression that took place during these dark years. This period represents a complete break in the long, continuous story of Austrian money. From the silver ransom of Richard the Lionheart to the imperial thalers and the republican shilling, Austrian coins had always told the story of the nation. Now, that story was silenced. The mints were still there, the skilled workers were still there, but their purpose was co-opted by an alien power. The absence of the shilling from 1938 to 1945 is as much a part of its history as its presence. It marks a time when Austria's voice, expressed through its currency, was completely extinguished, waiting for the day when it could be heard again. After the end of World War II in 1945, Austria was liberated, but it was a country in ruins. Its cities were bombed, its economy was shattered, and its future was uncertain. One of the very first acts of the re-established Austrian government was to bring back its currency. The second shilling was introduced in late 1945, even while Allied forces still occupied the country. This was an incredibly important and symbolic move. Reintroducing the shilling was a clear declaration that Austria was once again an independent nation. It was a way of reclaiming a vital piece of the national identity that had been stolen during the Nazi era. The first coins of the second shilling were simple, made from cheap materials like zinc and aluminium, because the country was poor and resources were scarce. But even these humble coins were cherished. They were a sign of hope. They represented the start of a long and difficult process of rebuilding. As Austria's economy began to recover, thanks to the hard work of its people and international aid like the Marshall Plan, the quality of the coins improved. By the 1950s, Austria was once again minting beautiful silver coins, bringing back a sense of pride and normalcy to the nation. The designs of the second shilling coins became a celebration of everything Austrian. They were a conscious effort to rebuild and promote a positive national identity after the trauma of the war and annexation. Instead of emperors or political symbols, the coins featured things that all Austrians could be proud of. There were coins showing the Edelweiss, a symbol of the Alps, the famous Lipizzaner stallions of the Spanish riding school, and portraits of great Austrian composers like Mozart and Strauss. The coins became a gallery in your pocket, showcasing the nation's stunning nature, its rich cultural heritage, and its artistic achievements. This focus on culture and nature was a way for Austria to define itself to the world as a peaceful, creative, and beautiful country. The Austrian mint became famous once again for its high level of artistry and craftsmanship. The post-war shilling coins were not just for buying things. They were ambassadors for the new Austria. They told a story of a nation that had risen from the ashes, rediscovered its soul, and chosen to celebrate its contributions to art, music, and science. The second shilling was a currency of recovery, pride, and cultural rebirth, and it served the Austrian people faithfully for over half a century. As the 20th century drew to a close, Austria, now a stable and prosperous country, stood at another historic crossroads. The dream of a more integrated Europe was becoming a reality, and a key part of that was the creation of a single currency, the euro. In 2002, after more than 70 years of history, the beloved Austrian shilling was retired, and Austria adopted the euro. This was a huge change. An entire generation had grown up with the shilling, and it was deeply woven into the fabric of national life. Saying goodbye to it was a moment of nostalgia, but it was also a moment of looking forward to a shared European future. When it came to designing the new euro coins, Austria had a unique opportunity to decide what images would represent the nation to hundreds of millions of people across the continent. True to its modern tradition, Austria chose a range of subjects that celebrated its rich culture and history. For the smaller scents, it chose alpine flowers, the primrose, the edelweiss, and the gentian, connecting the currency to the country's magnificent natural landscapes. These designs continued the post-war theme of celebrating Austria's natural beauty, a core part of its identity. For the larger denomination coins, Austria chose to highlight its architectural and cultural icons. The 10, 20, and 50-cent coins feature famous Viennese landmarks, St. Stephen's Cathedral, the Belvedere Palace, and the Secession Building, representing Gothic, Baroque, and Art Nouveau styles. The €1 coin honors the nation's most famous composer, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And for the €2 coin, Austria chose the portrait of Bertha von Suttner, a pacifist and Nobel Peace Prize winner, symbolizing Austria's commitment to peace. This selection beautifully encapsulates Austria's artistic legacy and its modern values. Today, Austria's legacy of fine coinage continues not only through its circulating euro coins, but also through its world-famous commemorative and bullion coins. The Vienna Philharmonic coin, made of pure gold or silver, is one of the best-selling bullion coins in the world, celebrated for its beautiful design honoring the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. The Austrian Mint also continues to issue special collector coins, including modern versions of the Maria Theresa Thaler. From the silver ransom of a medieval king to the modern euro, the story of Austrian coins is a remarkable journey through history. It is a story of power, art, crisis, and identity. reflecting the enduring spirit of a nation renowned for its tradition of beauty and craftsmanship.